Welcome to another self-love conversation. My name is Gloria Ward, and you guys know that I come to you when we have some wonderful, powerful women who will come to speak to us and speak to you about different topics. And tonight we're going to talk about something that we all should be talking about, and that is grief, how we get through grief. It is holiday time, and we have the amazing Melanie Greenhalgh. She's a TEDx speaker, an author, and a coach, and her story is going to amaze you. I just finished watching your TEDx, Melanie. So I just want you to introduce yourself, tell us a little bit about your story, because then they're not going to believe it. I know it.
Yeah. Well, I'll open up by saying hi everybody. Thank you so much for having me, Gloria. It's a real honor. And I love the idea that I am now one of the 1 million stories that
Yay!
um
I
that
love
you are
that.
on a mission to tell. And that is just excites me because I am a storyteller and I truly
Absolutely.
believe in the power of sharing what we've been through with one another. So a little bit about me. And I will preface this by saying, although you're going to say people won't believe the story, but the truth is, I'm not special or unique in any way
Yep.
because everybody has their stuff. It just
Yep.
that mine landed in my lap in a very short period of time. So I do now sort of call it the decade of disaster,
Mm-hmm.
because it was quite full on. So my mum was diagnosed with breast cancer in 2005, and I had two small children at the time, and I became her carer. And unfortunately, she passed away in the January of 2009. So I really experienced the privilege of caring for her. It was really important to me that I was there in that role, and it was quite beautiful, really. And it's something that I hold really dear. But then in the July of 2009, my sister passed away. And but that was like the complete opposite because my mum was what I call an anticipatory grief. So,
Correct.
I knew that it was coming, right? And it still didn't make it hurt any less. But whereas though my sister died, very suddenly, I got a phone call, and she, was 24 and gone.
Mm.
And I just had no warning. So I was completely kind of sideswiped or blindsided by it. Um, and she left behind two young children. So one of my nephews was 5 and the other was just over 1. So he was just walking.
Yeah.
And my own children at the time were 6 and 4. So our whole family dynamic changed in a phone call.
Wow.
And unfortunately, my sister was in a relationship with a really violent man. It was coercive, and there was a lot of control involved.
Mm-hmm.
And so I pretty quickly, and I'm talking about seconds, once I really understood what was happening, I kicked into a real lioness mode. And I
Yeah.
knew that I had to get those two boys. Um, and it was challenging. So, but I got them that day, and they, then we were involved in the care and protection system in Australia,
Mm-hmm.
um, and it was, that went on for like a decade, yeah, and that was kind of it's actually felt like the fight of my life,
Right.
if I'm honest, because there was so much at stake. These two little boys' safety, their future
Correct.
was on my shoulders. And then so we were dealing with all of that, trying to find our way as a family. And certainly the boys very quickly became our sons. Like they're just not my nephews anymore, which I'm
Right.
sad about because I don't have any nieces or nephews. They were it.
Right.
So, but I'm like, okay, I've got extra kids. And then in 2016, our house burnt down. So we lost everything. It was crazy. Everybody was okay. and nobody was hurt. But we lost everything. And I think this was when it really started to emerge for me that,
Mhm.
this cumulative impact of loss. Yeah. Because, suddenly I've had death and dying, and I've understood that, and that I understood from the beginning that that was a part of the human experience. But then I started to experience these different losses where I was like, hang on a second, I was meant to be a mum of two.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'd turned the tap off. I was like, and you know what, Gloria?
Yeah.
Actually, friends used to sit at the table and say to me, Mel, you should have another kid. And I was like,
Ooh,
no,
right.
no way. Right. And then
Right.
all of a sudden overnight, I'm like, oh my God, I've got 4 kids.
That's
Right.
right.
And it really disrupted my relationship with motherhood.
Mhm.
I didn't enjoy it as much as I had envisaged. There was
Mhm.
lots of stuff going on there. Then we lost the house, and it was just like, you know, not only did we lose the physical presence and the place of safety, like, yeah, we hope that most people get to live with this sanctuary that is their home. I know
Right.
it's not for everybody, but for a lot of us it is.
Mhm.
And but amongst all of the ashes and what was left was also like my whole childhood memories,
Exactly.
my all the heirlooms and the things that were being passed on from my mum. So, I'd taken it from her home when I packed that up. Then
Mhm.
my sisters, what I could get from her house at the time. All of those things that I tried to collect and keep for the boys. Um, for instance, I'd written during that care and protection journey, every time a major decision was made, I would write a letter to each
Mhm.
boy and explain why we did what we did,
Right.
because when you're looking back in hindsight and it's memories, and I thought I was doing the right thing, and that's all
Right.
I could do.
Right.
So, I'd written all of these letters, and boom, it was all gone. And then the kicker was in 2017, when we're trying to rebuild the house, stabilize these children in our family, I was diagnosed with endometrial cancer. And
Mm.
do you know, I swallowed that. I just was like, I didn't tell many people. I
Mhm.
went to Sydney in Australia and I had an operation, and my husband dropped me off, and then he had to come back to be with the kids and run our business. And so I just did it on my own, because I was like, if I actually engage with this, I think I might turn to dust.
That's right. I wanted to say, I was listening to the TED Talk. I was reading your bio, and I was just saying to myself, I was like, wow, what a true definition of what a rebirth is.
Yeah.
Like, I read the story, and you know how when you're in it, you don't understand, right? You feel like everything is just coming down on you. You gain 2 more kids, and you're trying to work through that, and the house burns down, and then you get sick, and then you're still dealing with grief and everything. And it's just like when I was listening to your TED talk, and you said, the house burned down, I just said to myself, wow, did she need to have her own rebirth to start her own legacy? Then the universe just say, you know what? Whatever it is that you're holding on to, that's not going to be your life anymore.
Mm.
That's
Mm-hmm.
what I immediately thought. Like,
Yep.
we have to let this go so
Yep.
that you can define what your life is going to be going forward. Right? That's what I
Yeah.
immediately thought. But in it, how did you handle that, especially being married and
Yeah.
having a
Yeah.
business? Because when you win it, you can't see,
No.
right?
No.
You're looking at, God damn it, if it was one more thing,
I literally remember just when they were sending me off to the doctors as an example, and they were like, we'll do this operation, we'll take these biopsies, we'll do this. And I was like, whatever, it's not going to be cancer. It
Yeah,
can't be. I've
yeah,
had my lot in life, right?
yeah.
But you talk about, I think I want to be, well, I am honest. I can't not be honest.
Mhm.
Um, you know, it's a gift and it's also a burden sometimes, right? But the truth is, in that 10 years, Gloria, I didn't cope very well at all.
Mhm.
Um, I think I was really depressed.
Mhm.
I was anxious all the time about what was going to go wrong next. And that really, like that, I lived with really like just constant nausea.
Mhm.
Um, I I felt very dissociated from my my life, but also just the world.
Yeah,
Like I was surrounded, but I felt really, really alone. And that at the core, when you talk about rebirth, so that operation was actually for me, it now I see it, the gift was it was the removal
mhm.
of the hurt, the pain,
Yeah, yeah.
whatever. And then getting onto the TEDx stage and just sharing a little part of my story and um, seeing how people responded
Mhm.
was just phenomenal. And
Mhm.
that was where I really got that sense of, oh, this was what that was all about. Yeah. So it was, you know, from that decade, I was able to then go, oh, hang on a second. I've also experienced other losses. I had an
Right.
absent father.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
But and so starting to look at myself, but also to look at the community that I worked with. So I've always worked with people,
Mhm.
and I started life as a youth worker.
Yeah.
And so, and you know what I realized, I was good at my job, but now the depth of like the depth of empathy and understanding I have, and I wish I could go back and be now then, because I would know that those little people were totally grieving that the adults in their lives weren't standing up for them,
Absolutely.
right?
Absolutely. I
Like,
I wanted to when I was listening and I was reading, I was just saying how when we experience any kind of grief, we we go into this mode of why why
mhm,
me? I don't
yep,
understand. Something must be wrong. I don't know how I'm going to get through this. And that could just be from a death of a loved one, a husband, a mate, anybody, right?
hmm,
But
yep,
when you have it the way it happened to you you really start to think like, damn, this cannot be my life, right? Like I am literally pushing myself. And the only reason why I say this is because my sister died unexpectedly, right?
mm.
She died of a pulmonary embolism.
Gloria, do you
Melanie,
know what my sister died of?
what?
A
Same thing?
pulmonary embolism,
For real?
for real.
Oh, wow. See, my sister was on her way to the mall. She was coming out of her house, and my cousin and her pastor were in the car, and she was coming out all happy, walking, and
Yep,
fell.
yep.
And they went and grabbed her, and they were there when she took her last breath, and I got the call,
Yeah.
right? And it was I still grieve that only because I said to myself, like, I knew that she was suffering. She used to suffer since she was a little kid, right? Um, where she would get blood clots and everything. But it was just a whole thing of, I would say, why her, where she didn't even know that she was going to die that day. She believed she was going to the mall and she
Yep.
was going to buy her some clothes and she was going to go to church that night and that she had plans on the calendar and on Facebook. You get what I'm saying?
Yeah, I
So
do.
the
Yep.
grief was, and the grief was, damn, why her? And then two, what happened to me was she was only 40 years old. I was maybe 30 something, maybe 33 or 4 at the time.
Mhm.
And I was just saying, here's another person in my family that dies early.
Yep.
I gotta hurry up. I got the fear sets in,
Yep.
right?
Yep.
Can you talk about when you're in the grief, how when you're in it, is it okay to feel it? Because you're hearing people say, hey, God gives his hardest battles to his strongest soldiers. You can walk through anything. I don't feel like that right
No,
now.
no. That's right. And and that's part of what I when I'm working with women, this comes up a lot because that the really strong narrative that we're sold is get up and get on with it.
That's right.
Build a bridge, cross over. And the truth is that anybody that has experienced any type of loss and the subsequent grief knows that there is no such thing as closure. You just learn how to live with this particular pain pain point in your life. And I use an analogy sometimes which helps people, because if you think about life as a quilt, right? And
Right.
think of it like a patchwork quilt, and we're adding to it as we move and we grow and it gets bigger. And then some days you put it in the wash and it goes through the washing machine, but on this particular day, it gets caught in the spin dry, and
Yeah.
you pull it out and it's got a tear in it.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
Yeah. And you're just like, what do I do? Yeah.
Mhm.
And the point is, as you make, Gloria, is that the important part is that we do need to process. We do need to sit with our discomfort, with our pain. We do need to ask those questions.
Mhm.
But beyond the questions, we need to then really tune into the answers. So for me, the question was about why am I being punished? What
Mhm.
have I done wrong?
That's
What
right.
did I do? Because of course, you've got those messages about, nobody sends you anything more than you can handle,
That's
whether it's
right.
a universe, God, whatever you believe in. And then you've got people walking around going, well, karma, karma. And you're like, hang on a second.
Right.
Like, I just met up with my girlfriends last week and we had a wine and a wine. But like,
Exactly.
I don't, is this commit, does this match? I don't think it
Yeah.
matches, right? But what what we need to do, and this is where as a community we can actually create that change,
Mhm.
is it starts with the power of one person having one conversation. When you do that, when you talk about you talk about whether it's death and dying in your family, whether it's the loss that you experience, because actually naming it, saying, you know what, I didn't get that job. I didn't, I just had a miscarriage, or whatever it
Yeah.
is that you're sharing with someone. I fundamentally feel absolutely devastated that my relationship's broken down, that my
Yeah.
friend is no longer talking to me,
Yeah.
whatever that loss is. Um, we have to bring language to it. We have to communicate about it, because that's coming back to the quilt, is that's where we get to be back in the driver's seat and make the decision about what is right for us.
Thank
Because
you.
for you, Gloria, you might go down to the haberdashery and buy a different piece of cloth that
Mhm.
represents the relationship you had with your sister.
Correct.
I might choose to darn it, right? I might just bring the
Mhm.
bits together and sew it together. That might be my healing.
Yeah.
What our version of healing is very individual. But when we start sharing the story,
Mhm.
then we can heal, but we don't have to do it alone, if that
And
makes sense.
yes, it does. And that's what I want the women to hear. And I hope you ladies are hearing this. Number one is you have to be able to feel the grief. People are telling you, you got to be strong, you can get through it. And that is true. But it is okay to feel, it is okay to cry, it is okay to have questions, to be angry. What we're
Mm-hmm.
saying is don't stay there. Like
Yeah.
Melanie said, you have to get yourself back into the driver's seat. Why? Because you have to go through this grief so that you can build yourself back up. And the way that you do that is that you give it a name, you say it out loud, you put yourself in a position where you can start to talk about it, and you put yourself in a position where you get to experience other people, because that's what I found, right? Like, for me, it caused a little bit of fear in me, where I was like, after my sister passed, Melanie, I started thinking about my mom. My mom died when I was 7 years old.
Yep.
She was barely 30. She had 6 kids. She died of AIDS, right? So
Mm-hmm.
my grandmother was like you. She already raised the 11 children. She gained 6 more kids,
Yeah.
right? And she was not happy about that, but she said, I didn't want to see you guys go into a home. I wanted you guys to stay together, right?
Mm. Yeah.
And staying together meant us having a life with her. We knew she loved us,
Mm.
but she wasn't happy. She
Mm.
wasn't
Yeah.
happy, not because she didn't love us, but she really had a plan for her life that
Yeah.
went another way, right?
Correct. Yep.
And it's and being a kid who who is on the other side of that and don't know what's really going on, but
Yeah.
you looking at this person looking at you saying, okay, well, I'm not your mother, but I'm your grandmother, and this is what it is. Your mother's not here anymore,
Mm.
right?
Mm.
It causes another grief,
Yep. Correct.
right? Because
Yep.
now you don't get the days to hang out, to eat breakfast. You're always looking at photos.
Yep.
You never really see this person it up close. Her kids, you're their mom, so
Yeah.
that's all they know. Like my little brothers, right? My grandmother was their mother. That's all they know. They see their mother in pictures who they never met, right?
Yep.
And all of that, there is not only the grief with you, it does affect everyone around you, so you have to be able to find a way, right?
Yep.
Because I know it affects your husband in some way, right? But he's
Oh, look.
probably trying to be strong or whatever
uh,
it is, and do the man thing, right?
Well, look, and it's really interesting because, when I think about the survival in that period of time, it was very much about just doing one moment at a time.
Right.
And so, and the other thing that I would share with the audience is that, we have this idea that we need to be sort of, I suppose, like dependent on independent, right? That we need to
Hmm.
rely on ourselves. And of course, we want that in some ways because we want, if our internal validation is high, then we tend to get through life pretty well, right?
Absolutely.
But in this instance, what I've really become aware of and what I used as a coping mechanism was that I got up for other people. I got up because other people were relying on me.
Hmm.
And what's really interesting was that I felt a whole lot of shame about that at the time because I was like, well, you're a fake. You're you, you know, why can't, like, literally, why can't you get your shit together? That
Right.
was a lot of what was going on in my
Hmm.
mind, right? And it was like,
Hmm.
but every morning I would get up and I would think, okay, the kids need me to make lunch. You know, um, I've made a commitment with a friend. I have a job that I have to go to. So, and what I want to share with people is that I now really say to a lot of people, and that's part of my role as a coach sometimes, is to say, do you know what? Borrow me,
Mm.
borrow my belief in you,
Mm. I
right?
love that.
Until you are back on your feet.
I love that.
Just like just like you would, if it's raining and you're with a friend, you share your umbrella.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so in individually, we need to understand that sometimes we need to just go, you know what I need to do today? I just need to meet the needs of some other people. And that will help me stay grounded. And to be honest with you, Gloria, there were times there where it was really tough. I really struggled about, did I want to be here? And
Mhm.
I knew I did. I
Yeah.
knew that there was, and that's the hope thing, right? Because I'm
Mhm.
big on hope.
Yeah.
I'm
Yeah.
like, you know, um, I believe in community, and I believe
Yeah.
in how we can hold each other and scaffold each other. It's
Absolutely.
just that we currently living in a society that's all about the individual, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
But it takes a village,
It does.
and that's what got me through. It was
It does.
learning to ask for help. Yeah,
And I would say, um, I love what you said is like, borrow my hope, borrow my faith,
yeah,
because when you're in grief, you're constantly either thinking about the person or what's happening to you, and all the things that you need to handle in order for you to get yourself back to normal. And what I tell the women is that your life changed overnight, in
yeah,
an instant, or it's something that you were anticipating, if you knew that the
mm,
person was going to pass away. But at the same time, you look for the good in it, because not only is it making you stronger, but it's making you stronger for someone else, right?
yeah,
It is helping you be more empathetic. It
yeah,
is allowing you to go ahead and choose your peace, to choose gratitude, to
yeah,
choose love, and get rid of all of those other emotions, the anger, the jealousy, and everything. You have to get up every day and choose to be peaceful,
yeah. And
because you got
true.
to keep it together,
Yeah,
right?
it's true. And another that just really sparked in me too, Gloria. I thought about one of the things that I got really stuck in, and I was in a goofy loop about it for quite a while, was
Mm.
this idea that the more I retreated into the grief, that was the demonstration of the level of my love. Yeah. And I got stuck.
100% get it.
Yeah. I got stuck big time.
100% get it. For me, for me, I started drinking. I went to
Yeah.
jail, things like that, only because at the same time I was experiencing another death. I was losing my marriage,
Yep.
right? So, sister passed, losing my marriage, losing my business, right?
Yeah.
And having, panic attacks, heart palpitations, all kind of stuff, right?
Yep.
But you sit there and you say to yourself, what how and why and how can I get out of this? and
Yeah.
and what we tell people all the time, and what you said is, first you got to go through it. You
Mm-hmm.
cannot skip steps.
No, it
You
doesn't
gotta
work.
go through it. You gotta go through it. It's painful. You don't like it. You hoping it doesn't last forever, but the time that it takes will be on you,
Yeah.
because now you have to literally try to force yourself to be able to do something different, because you have to become a different person. You're forced to become a different person.
You are.
You see what I'm
You are.
saying?
Yep.
Where,
And people, you hear people say all the time, I don't know how you do it. And you're
yeah,
like, well, there
there was
I've
no
made some decisions in
options.
my life, but this was not one of them. So yeah, and of course, all of those cliches and all of
Yep.
that, people looking at you going, where are you in the stages of grief? And you're
Yep.
like, it's a
Oh
bit more
God.
messy than that. And that, that whole theory has been hijacked, right?
Right.
And so you're just like, and I know you referenced, it's holiday season. And so,
Yeah.
Christmas is approaching. And I'm good sort of before Christmas Day and I'm okay after Christmas Day. But
Mhm.
on that actual day when it's just our family together and it's tiny, it's only
Mhm.
little,
Yeah.
and my husband's there, who is just he is an absolute wonder and a massive support of me because,
Yeah.
I think about it. I often would hear him. I'd often say to him, look, I realize I brought all of this into our family.
Yeah.
So there were many a night, Gloria, where we live on a property and I'd just be looking down and thinking, tonight's the night. He's just going to drive by.
Yep.
He's
I
not
get
going to turn left.
it. He just gonna say nope, nope, not
But
today.
but you know what?
He always came.
He's the bomb. And he's
Yeah,
definitely supported me. But so I've learned to live with it, and I absolutely now understand the gifts that I was given,
absolutely.
because now, as you say, how I can interact and relate and be with people is huge. Um,
Absolutely.
and but it's absolutely about, I've found a way to then use that gift and hopefully help others understand it, because we got to be talking about it in a really different way.
Hey, tell us how. I know you're doing coaching and you're doing a
Yeah,
lot of
yeah.
stuff. So
So
tell us, how can we
yeah.
connect
So
with you?
look, where a lot of my work kind of stems from is it actually started when I was doing some research about my one of my sister's boys who
Mhm.
had been impacted, obviously, by violence.
Right.
And so I was doing a lot of research on the brain and neuroscience and
Mhm.
how do we've got this supercomputer and it's like really, really smart, but it's also really, really dumb.
Yep.
And, I was like, how do I, turn this around? So I was actually researching and I'd always worked in trauma informed way, but I took it to the next level and I really got into it. And what I learned just really blew my mind about um, it really taught me about how much control we can leverage
Yeah.
when we're in the right place to do that. So this isn't about toxic positivity. It's not about, it's absolutely about understanding that our brains are wired to look for
Right.
the danger and to scan, to look for how do we avoid the pain. And that's it's a superpower,
Mhm.
but it also trips us up a lot and it literally can get us stuck. And so the work I do is really I work to activate the coach in every woman. Yeah.
Yeah.
So how do you become your own coach? Yeah. Because nobody's doing that for us.
No.
No. So yes, our family and friends love us, but they'll often won't say something because they don't want to hurt us. And so the only
Mhm.
person you can get really truthful and honest with is yourself. And you need to be curious. So I'm about bringing the science of achievement together with the art of fulfillment, if that makes sense. So
It does. It does.
yeah,
It
yeah.
does.
And
I love that.
yeah, and it is really about helping women just really shift out of blame, shame, and guilt, because it's just this never-ending cycle that we're living in. And we've been partly conditioned, we've partly got this brain that's wired to generate those thoughts, because the more thoughts it does like that, the more it helps us stay inside the cave. you know,
Exactly.
and if you don't go outside the cave, you can't get hurt.
Exactly.
But we have to go outside the cave because guess what? We're also wired for growth. Yeah. So if you stop learning, if you stop, you know, growing, you actually die.
That's right.
So you know, it's a really it's an interesting, I suppose, balancing act. But once you know the why behind what's going on, it really puts you back in the driver's seat. Yeah, and that's the power, that's the transformation I love. So yeah.
Okay. So how do we follow you? You give us your social media,
Yes. Yes.
books,
So
website.
if you're looking up collectivewisdomcoaching.com, that's the website, and then it's Collective Wisdom Coaching on Facebook and Insta, and I'm also on LinkedIn too. So under Collective Wisdom Coaching, and also my name. So I've got the two profiles. But yeah, look, I'd love to for people that might be interested in learning a little bit more, you know, but certainly my number one tip, or the thing that I really encourage everybody to do, is to just start with one conversation with someone that you trust, and just let them know, maybe today when they've been listening to us chat, you know, particularly like I just, your story, Gloria, as well, about, and then, you know, oh, my marriage broke up. Yep, that's a loss. My,
Yep.
you know, my business, you know, and then as you talked about, we can totally go into some of the drinking, you know, using things that make us temporarily feel good, but are ultimately harming us. And food was my thing. And then, you know, then you're right, you have to stand up and make a decision. But it really does start with just tuning in to yourself and saying, what do I need right now? And who could I talk to about this? And then just start that conversation. And I encourage everybody to be talking with, if they've out there and they've got children, you know, I think that's the most powerful gift I've given my kids in their parenting, is that when they've fallen over, when they've felt wobbly, when something hasn't gone their way, it's like, okay, let's sit through and process it.
Sit through and process it.
Yeah.
Wow. Melanie, thank you so much. I enjoyed this conversation.
So did I.
I
Thanks for having
really,
me,
really, really
Gloria.
do appreciate it. And we are going to make sure we put out your links and all your social media
Thank you.
handles. And we definitely going to connect again. Okay.
Okay.
All
Beautiful.
right. You have a
All
good
right.
day. Okay.
Yeah, I will. I will.
All right.
All right. See you later.
All right. Bye.